that period, as I left my wedding and went for a meeting, I think it was Maiduguri or Sokoto, I forgot it. I entered meeting, I was talking. The next day I looked. I just knew that somebody was sitting on the second row who had pain on the left part of his breast. I checked myself. I said, come out of your senses. What are you in your brain? I now wanted to test it. I said, is somebody feeling so? Manko paraga. Velege. I kept preaching. I was looking around. I now heard the spirit realm is real. If you have not entered, you have not entered. Don't fake it. Wait and enter. I now heard somebody has a broken leg on the right side of the hall. I said, this one heavy. I walked. I said, when you start with a lot of humility. Is somebody here with, did your leg break somewhere? Maybe you fell or an accident. Is there anybody who want to, let's just trust God. Somebody stood up. Are you sure? He said, yes. Check. He said, when I left that meeting, I knew that they had added another badge. The next meeting I went for, I walked like an apostle. Manta cover. I was teaching and I told them, don't worry, I will take 30 minutes to teach. When I finish, I will operate in the spirit. When I finish, I will operate in the spirit. Dimensions have come. And when I finished teaching, I now stood and started worshiping. Manda cabra kato. I was just worshiping. When I was worshiping, see, if it has come, it has come. Mangro pacto fragada. The first place I gave that word was where pastors were teaching. I said, on this second row, no, not the third, 1, 2. Yeah, precision. On this second row, there's a woman sit. You now know it's a woman. There is, as I talk, the power hit her. I said, I told you, wait, I don't want to go too high today, but I told them, wait, let's keep it calm. It's tomorrow we'll do revival. Today I just want to stir the waters. Now, any vocabulary, you have the liberty. I just want to test I was now moving. I now started moving like a spiritual man. I walked into the congregation. I stood somewhere and I stood there for some time. As I was scanning, a word came. I now turned to the right. I said, Kai, there's somebody here. Your ear, your left ear, there's a challenge. You are hearing sound. The guy shouted. I said, come, don't worry. Malako. At that point, you walk like a cherubim. If you don't receive these things, you will suffer. See, these last meetings I went for, when I finished preaching in London, I was tired. But the next day, I had to be in Leicester. That morning, I was so tired. My eyes were literally swollen because I didn't sleep enough. When I entered Leicester, I was talking, I was tired. In fact, it looked like I was gisting because there was no physical energy. People were yawning. I said, God of mercy, what am I doing here? When I finished preaching, and I told them to stand up, God will touch some people now. Oh God. See, you need some graces. You know why Paul said, I long to see you, that I may impart unto you spiritual graces. Sir, my teaching for 1 hour, 20 minutes was boring. Even me, I felt it. But when I stood up, the last 5 minutes, I looked at them, I stood. I said, on this third row here, who is the woman there that had an accident 6 months ago? Your right leg is broken. The woman started shouting. People stood up and shook themselves. What's happening here? They stood, as they were standing, I said, no, wait a minute. I was just pointing different directions in the building and telling them the thing. Before you know, the place exploded. I now carried my hanky. I said, I want to release a commandment in the spirit. I just want to give a commandment. And the way the Holy Ghost will also inspire you with utterances. I said, I want to write a commandment in the spirit over this place. As I stood, the moment I spoke, the place exploded. Over 15 people shout. They were packing them. I told them, I just told the pastor, God bless you. I have to run. I have a plane to catch. Thank you. Everybody was running. God, I was moving. The man told me, He said, when you talk, spirits and things will respond to you. I left that meeting and went to Edinburgh. That evening, I was to minister, still tired. I came in and God dropped a message in my spirit. I shared the message very casually. When I finished, I stood up again. You know, now it is a weapon in your quiver. You can remove it and wield it. You wield it. I move round. I said, here. I gave somebody. Here, before you know, everywhere exploded. The other guy, I said, Kai, somebody is by my left, near that speaker. You know, the precision one, even me, I enjoy it. I said, there's somebody by the speaker there. Your leg is broken. The guy now stood up with crutch. I said, I didn't know it was this serious. Come. Because the beauty is that if God shows you, it will happen. When he came, I said, give me, walk. Before I know, the guy started, people started shouting. If you don't receive gift, you will not be established. I say, I long to see you, that I may impart. So when hands are being laid on people, this is what you should be thinking. Which dimension am I receiving? Which gift am I receiving? Because if you don't make demand, you can't take. The word is catalambano. You take it. The man avails himself by laying. You collect. Finally, laying on of hands are also used to separate people into their ordination. In Acts 13 verse 1 to 3, although Paul was called to be an apostle, but the Bible said they laid hands on them. The Holy Ghost says, separate unto me Paul and Barnabas for the work that I have for them. Many times you may be called into an office, but hands need to be laid so that the grace to operate in that office separates you into that office. You find that also in Acts 6 verse 5 to 6. So the apostles knew this. These are not religious things, deliberate for deliberate purposes. Now, if you know that laying on of hands impart dimensions, impart spirits, impart virtues, impart giftings, and also separate people, what is the disposition you must sustain? Because there's a disposition for receiving. Number one, faith. When you submit your head, your hand, or anywhere for hands to be laid on you, do it by faith. In James chapter 1 verse 5, you will see what the Bible stated. It said, if you waver, if you fluctuate, James 1 5 to 8, it said, don't think you will receive anything from God. A man that is unstable cannot receive anything. So you need faith and stability to receive these things. Don't go there because people are going. If you don't believe in a man, don't go for hands to be laid on you. If you don't believe in what he carries, don't go. It's not religion. It's a basis of transferring things. And when hands are laid on you, something must rest. And that's why you also have to be careful not to allow diabolic people lay hands on you. Hope you know that in the Old Testament, the way sin is transferred from the sin offering, from the sinner to the sin offering, is by laying hands. When the sinner lays his hand on the offering, the sin of the sinner is transferred. When a sinner, a diabolic person, lays hands on you, he transfers his iniquity to you. Paul told Timothy, said, lay hands suddenly on no man. Transactions take place. But when you believe it, then you can receive. That's why you need to believe in somebody before you go for hands to be laid on you. Number two, before you go for hands to be laid on you, make sure you honor that person. Because without every contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. If you don't honor somebody, he can even hug you, nothing will enter. So make sure there is honor in your heart for that grace and that person. Otherwise, the laying of hands will be a waste of time. Hebrews 7:7, without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. Number three, go with a disposition of humility. Because if you are not humble, even if that man wants to transfer, God won't allow it. Because God is the one that allows virtues to transfer. You know, the Bible says God resists the proud, but he giveth more grace to the humble. God resists the proud. James 5:7, 1 Peter 4:7. He giveth more grace to the humble. And number four, when you go for hands to be laid on you, let your heart be ready with obedience. Because sometimes when hands are laid on you, it comes with instructions. Paul said, fan to flame the gift of God that is put upon you by the laying on of my hands. So if you don't pray, if you don't fan, although the gift to be transferred, it won't work. So you need to be ready with obedience before hands are laid on you. And finally, your heart must be full of expectation. Because you cannot receive what you are not expecting. The Bible said, without every contradiction, it said the expectation of the righteous shall not be cut short. So it is expectation that determines the direction of traffic. So make sure that there is expectation in your heart. And if I may add, there should be readiness for service. Because everything you receive is for service. If it is not for service, why do you need it? You are receiving it because there is a service you need that grace to render.
Thank you.